Hello everyone,
We are Cheap
Cheap
Ladies. Today we're going to talk about how to control your cost when you go to China.
Very important.
There are in general 4 different aspects you need to think about when it comes to cost. But before we jump into those, there are some general tips we want to give.
We can talk about the timing. Try to avoid the hot seasons when the local people travel.
Secondly, I think location makes a big difference.
Yeah. Big cities such as Peking, Shanghai, Canton, costs there are quite international. Very you are going to smaller cities or countrysides, it can be like
less
very
famous.
cheap. Yeah.
Majority of places in China is a lot cheaper still compared with if you travel in US, for example, or in UK.
Yeah, definitely. I think in the past years, the prices in China has gone up quite a lot, but in general, it's still quite affordable.
Accommodation. You have a lot of experience.
I think I can recommend this website. It's called Ctrip, ctrip.com. It's kind of like hotels.com or booking.com.
It's a website with English version.
Exactly. Just an important tip, not every hotel can accommodate foreigners without a Chinese passport.
The living standard in the different hotels are generally quite acceptable because local Chinese also travel a lot, and that has pushed a lot of improvement. But if you want English support, I would still suggest you to choose a little bit higher end if you are worried about whether you can get service in English. There are lots of family-run accommodation as well around typically scenic spots.
Yes, that's a good point. Sometimes they have really nice gardens.
They have different kind of personality. They can be very artistic, for example. You can see also very traditional styles. You would live almost like how a local would live in those type of places compared with the standard hotel chains. There you get a more international experience. Price, I think in general is cheaper if you live in family run. You can always check the reviews on Ctrip or some other website as well. More practical information we can give also in a separate video later on. How you can find the best accommodation within your budget. Intercity transportation.
I think I would definitely recommend the high-speed trains. It's modern, fast, clean, very affordable.
We had some nice experience and we talked about it in another video. You can say maybe between 100, 200 RMB if you want to travel to somewhere not too far away. And if it's very far away, then it's still like several hundreds.
You can only buy the train tickets max 2 weeks before you're traveling. Nowadays, there are more and more high-speed trains. If you don't need to travel for longer time than 3-4 hours, usually those train tickets are always available.
Airplane generally is more expensive compared with traveling by train.
Generally, but sometimes, if you're lucky, you can get cheaper compared to train tickets.
That's typically if you order tickets within 2 weeks of your travel time, right?
In China, it's a bit different. Here in Europe, if I want to save money, I try to book as early as possible. But in China, if you do that, normally you won't get cheap air tickets. 2 or 3 weeks before you're traveling, the budget air tickets will come out.
It's related to how Chinese don't do very long-term planning. That is very different compared with, for example, in Europe. Inner city transportation.
Just take taxi if you have chance.
They are not expensive at all.
No, and this is just so convenient. Later we can recommend some good apps for you to use.
And you can also chat with the driver and ask questions compared with if you take a bus. It will be harder to get answers and get help.
If you're curious and would like to try the bus, that's definitely the most economic choice.
It costs you just a couple of RMB, right?
20 cents euro, something like that.
Yeah. Subway is also very good. It wouldn't cost you more than 10 yuan to travel almost everywhere within a city.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, one transport I almost forgot for you to see more parts of the city.
The shared bikes, you also need to have an app on your phone. Data traffic, you need to buy a SIM card because you want to be able to use translator or map In general, that it's not expensive. It's like about 100 RMB or less than that. If you want to buy, for example, 1 gig of data, then it costs you just maybe 10 RMB or even less. If you buy such a SIM card, typically you can get help from the place where you buy it from to sell things on attractions.
I have traveled many times with my Swedish families. They usually think it's much cheaper in China compared to the European countries. But one thing can be quite costly. It's actually attraction entrance. For example, if you want to go to a park, a lot of them are actually quite expensive. This summer, we went to Fanjingshan in the middle of China. There's a mountain very famous. 5 of us need to take the cable car, and we need to take the transportation within the park, plus the entrance. In total, I think we paid 2,000 for 1 day.
Wow.
And actually, we went in the park twice within 2 days. So you can imagine it can be quite a lot of money.
That's more expensive than when I went to the Great Wall. The entrance fee was about 100 RMB. Then, of course, it's up to you to choose if you want to take the lift or not. Taking the lift is another 100 something. But if you don't need that, then it's basically just it.
The attractions in Peking is almost free of charge.
I actually can say the same for Shanghai, because I was in Shanghai this summer and went to quite many main attractions. It's not expensive either. It's like within 100 RMB in most of the places.
That's interesting.
Bigger cities have that advantage, is that maybe the government subsidize those places in some way, so that is not very expensive. In smaller places, maybe it's different because they basically have to live on the income.
Yeah, it depends on those entrance fees.
Wherever you plan to go, it would be good to Google a bit in advance to
Do some research.
It's nice to check out many cities that are not so famous, but still have a lot to offer. They're not expensive either. Whether you want to experience the traditional side of things or natural resources and such, there are so much choices that you can make.
We can make another episode. I think I have a lot of good suggestions.
Food?
Food is generally cheap.
That's the cheapest part for sure. If you love Asian food, you've come to the right place.
Especially in big cities, the prices of a restaurant can vary very much as well. For example, in Peking, you can get very cheap street food for nothing. There are also some very expensive restaurants to have different choices.
But then a majority of food courts, for example, in a shopping center and such, cost within like 50 RMB per person. And you get a very good meal. Generally, I suggest you to try different things, but be aware that can be things very spicy. So if you're not very used to spice, it's better to actually watch out and taste a little bit or look at the others that are taking it.
Maybe I can take the chance to teach our audience how to say spicy in Chinese.
La.
La. So
you can do no,
if
no,
you want to ask for the food,
la, la.
If they say no, yeah, then you're safe.
Exactly. Those food are very tasty, even though they can be very spicy. So if you're brave enough, I really recommend you to try a little bit, a tiny little bit.
2 years ago, we spent almost 3 weeks in Spain and Portugal. This summer, we stayed 4 weeks in China, but it's still cheaper.
But then you didn't include flight tickets, right?
Includes the flight tickets.
What?
Yes.
That's actually surprises me a little bit. I never calculated that way.
I did.
That's basically all we want to talk about today.
Thanks for your time.